Bright Tuty. Every student matters.
So it says that find the area of the following figures by counting the squares. So clearly, if you see in this image, how many squares do you have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the area is 9 squared unit. Simple. Let us see how many squares are in the B figure. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So what is the area for this? It is 5 squared unit. Clear? Now for the C part, let us see. Here we have got 1 and 2 as full squares. So full squares 2. More than half 1, 2, 3 and 4. Oh great, it is exactly half if you notice. So it's half square here. Okay. Half here, half here, half here and half here. So we have got 4 half squares. So 4 half squares is basically 2 again. So the area of this square is 4 square unit. Now the next one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's the answer 8 squared unit. Moving to the last one, E part. Here we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10 squared unit. I hope it is clear. You just need to count the number of squares and you write it as your answer. Let's do some more. Here in the F part we see that 2 squares are the complete squares, the full squares, right? And how many half squares do we have? We have got 1, 2, 3 and 4. So 4 half squares equals 2. So what is the area for this? It is 4 squared unit. Clear? Now the next one, it is 1, 2, 3 and 4, that is full squares. Now how many half do we have? 1, 2, 3 and 4. So 4 half squares makes 2 squares. So the answer is 6 squared unit. Moving to the next one here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it is 5 squared unit. Simple. Now the last one here, I part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it is 9 squared unit. Clear? Let's do some more. Here we can see we have got 2 squares that are the complete squares. Then we have got 1, 2, 3 and 4 half squares. So 4 half squares is 2 full squares. So the answer to this is 4 squared unit. Now let's see the K part. Here we have got 1, 2, 3, 4 as the full squares. And we have got 1 and 2 as half squares. So 2 half and half added to each other makes 1. So the answer is 5 squared unit. Simple. Now this looks a little complicated. Let us see. I'm sure it's easy. Now let us see what is the number of full squares. So this is 1, 2 and great. So we just have 2 squares that are full squares. Now let us find what is the number of squares that are more than half. Okay. So this particular square that you see, it is more than half. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. So here we have got 4 squares that are more than half. So we are going to add 4 to it. Now how many squares do we have less than half? It is 1, 2, 3, 4. So what do we do if we have less than half? We don't count them at all. Okay, so we are going to ignore all those squares which are less than half. And yes, we missed one square here. This is also more than half. So instead of 4, it's not 4. We have got 5 squares which are more than half. Okay, 2 squares that are, I'll just color it. These 2 squares, they are the full squares. And all the other squares that you see here, all these squares, these are more than half. Okay, so more than half squares, we clearly see there are 5 of them. So we have considered that as 5. And all these little squares that you see on the top, all these squares, they are less than half, right? So we are going to ignore these parts. So what is the total? The total is 7. So the answer is 7 squared unit. Okay, just the simple thing to remember, any square which is more than half, we consider it. But if it is less than half, we are not considering that into the answer. Okay, now let us do two more questions of the similar type. This is estimation of the area. Now let us see how many full squares do we have. So here I have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So almost 7 squares are full. Let us add what is the almost full squares. So what are more than half? So here I have got 1, then this is 2, 3, then this is 4, then it's 5 and 6. So 6 squares are more than half. And everything else that you see here, this is all these squares that you see, they are very small, okay? They are less than half. So what are we going to do? We are going to simply ignore all these squares. So what is the answer? We need to just add what is 7 add 6. The answer is 13 square units. Okay. Now the next one here. Let us see what is the number of full squares. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 squares are full squares. Let us see how many squares are more than half. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7, 8. 8 squares are, we can estimate that 8 squares looks more than half. And everything else we are just going to ignore. Okay. So the answer is 18 square units. I hope now you're very much clear how we are estimating the answers of finding the areas of these flat 2D shapes, right? And I hope this estimation you have understood why we are using these squares. It is because the area is that we are finding how much small squares of unit area can be fitted into that particular given shape.